Alright, what's going on guys? My name is Gio and today we're going to be going into a build series that I have coming up for my F30 328i Sportline. So that car is on the other side of this X3 and the build series for that is going to be mostly focusing on the motor for this current point in time because the one in it is actually blown. Go figure. It's a N20, N26 motor, and actually it wasn't even the timing chain, guys. I lost compression in cylinder 2. So yeah, say what you want about the motor or how it's not worth it to build it. I'm doing this purely for myself and because I like the car how it is and with that motor, and put another series out there, hopefully get more people comfortable with the idea of modifying their car or finding safe limits. Honestly, with the stuff available and all the bolt-on stuff, you can max out the stock internals as it is. You actually will want to build the car if you want to shoot past the 350 mark. I'm not aiming for very far past there. I'm aiming for 400 to 450 horsepower. If I can get up to 5, that'd be great, but not really where I'm shooting for. 400 to 450 is my ideal goal because I do plan to want to take it to the track and I want to have usable power that I can also still drive on the street because it is my daily driver. Although at the moment it is a garage queen sitting in the corner. So without further ado, let's go ahead and walk over there real quick and we'll go ahead and show you around. Sorry, we don't have a big budget here. We're gonna have to just pull the cover off. So this car is Alpine white with a coral red interior. I'm not gonna completely pull off the cover because it's kind of annoying to get it on and off. But I will pull it back enough just so that you can kind of see, well, the front end, and any of you that know the F-Series cars will already know how these cars look. So anyway, getting back to this car is, again, Alpine white, coral red interior. It has a sport line with the technology package, so it has the heads-up display. But what it doesn't have is a lot of the other stuff you would expect to find. So there's no backup camera, no parking sensors, no blind spot monitoring. It's kind of a weirdly optioned car, if you ask me. As far as stuff that I've done to it, it's on ESR CR1s. The front bumper is stock with a lip added to it, and I did cut the front because I am planning to put an intercooler into it. If you'd like to know how I did that, you can leave that in the comments and I'll go back and make a video because there are some parts to it that I need to redo. Headlights are updated with a set of, well, eBay headlights that look a little bit more like the LCI. Engine modifications that are done to it, it is pretty much all bolt-on stuff. I've never really taken apart this engine up until I got the one that's off at the machine shop right now, but we have a cold air intake, FTP charge pipe, catless downpipe, and a couple other miscellaneous things. Oh, ethanol content analyzer made from an Arduino, just so that then I have ethanol content when I'm running a 30% ethanol tune. There's a PSM style spoiler in the back, blackline style tail lights, and then the roof is wrapped in this really awesome burgundy color. So it looks black from a distance, but when you get up on it and actually put light on it, it is red. And I did that because everybody does black, but I had a red interior and I wanted to be a little bit different. But anyway, going back to the other point of this video, we are going to be talking about the internals. So we'll walk over there and I'll pull out one of the pistons that I'm going to be using and we can talk about that. All right, so back at the workbench, here's the piston for cylinder 1. Keeping it kind of short and sweet. At the top here for the actual piston itself, we have a Carrillo 84mm standard duty piston. So that means it has the standard wrist pin. There's no special coatings or anything. It's no frills, pretty much just a forged piston. No skirt coating, no dome coating, and the wrist pin I'm not going to need for my power goals. So we just left that as standard. I have already balanced and assembled 3 of the 4. The 4th one is out at LA Sleeve with the block, so that they can use it to set the piston to wall clearance. As far as for this piston, this piston and rod combination, what I went with for the rod is a Manley Turbo Tough tri-beam connecting rod. So you can see it here that it is it is not an H-beam rod, evidently, based on the way that it's designed. And then even comparing it to a stock piston, if I grab one from over here, it is a fair bit different as far as width and even the design for the skirt. So you can see that the Carrillo has a much wider skirt and more support, and that the rods themselves are physically same length obviously, but wider and provide more structure and strength to the pin end that you can see here compared to the factory one, which tapers in, and as well as you can't really see it in, or you can kind of see it in here, but the pin end is actually tapered as well. So whereas this one is straight, so that makes it a lot easier. As far as for the thought process for choosing these, the Manly Turbo Tough tri-beams were just something that I haven't seen anybody put into these motors, and they will fit. You have to buy the set for the N55 or find 4 individual ones for the N55, but they will actually in fact fit. They are the exact same piston between the two, or piston and rod out of the 2 cars, but I just wanted to try something different as opposed to going with the Carrillo H-beams that everybody uses. And you have to clearance slightly less because they're not quite as wide as the Carrillos. You still will have to clearance though, just the nature of the motor's design. If you're looking for a drop-in option that you can put in that is a better material, you can actually get the S55 piston or rods out of the M3, and well, the pistons as well, I believe, and go that route. But I wanted to go more overkill than anything because I don't want to end up in the same situation that I'm in now where I have to rush through building a motor. So anyhow, the way that I decided to remove material from these was that I went ahead and did the piston as normal. So I went ahead and I chamfered around the edges here. And then for the rod, I went ahead and I did take, actually I think this is the rod that I didn't have to take material off of, but for the rods, while they were still assembled before I split the cap off, I went ahead and I took material off of the corners here, here, and then same thing on the reverse side just to keep it even. On 2 of them, I only had to do it to 2 faces. The way I did that was I did it on this side, on one side, and then on the opposite side, I did it on the reverse so that they are across from each other, just to try and keep it relatively even as far as how I'm removing material. That way it's not all on this side or all on the back side or all left or all right. Because I didn't have to remove that much material. If we actually come over here to my chart, we can see just what the weights ended up being. So what we ended up doing was we went ahead and we did remove material from the big ends, and we went ahead and just did that. So you can see it was 0.8, 0.3, and 0.2 of a gram. But on the small end, or the pin end, I didn't really want to machine into the Turbo Tough tri-beams because they do have ridges up there that are, or ribs up there that are meant for strength and are intended there for structure. So you can see them running up in here and they go all the way around. So I really didn't want to remove material out of there. So on 2 of the pistons, I found that by removing 1.2 grams on either one, I could balance out the weights that way. So I went ahead and removed it out of the piston. So they will all still weigh the same, although 2 of the rods are technically heavier overall on their own. The ring weights and the ring weights with the locks and the wrist pin weights were all the same. So I could kind of just ignore that for out of the equation. So when we add them up all together, I should be within 1/10, maybe 2/10 of a gram, depending on rounding and my scales variability. But I did try to get them within 1/10 of a gram was the goal. And then I even took the weights of the original pistons to see what it was. So we have 1085.5 on cylinder 1, 1084.1 on cylinder 2, 1082.6 for cylinder 3, and 1086.0 on cylinder 4. And these are the piston weights of the original pistons out of the motor. These aren't the pistons that I'm putting in. Those are lighter than these. These ones are lighter, and if I want, I can pull out the scale here and actually measure it for you real quick. Get that set on the table here. And we'll go ahead and zero it out. Just make sure it's zeroed. And this is kind of tough because the scale isn't necessarily big enough for this, but we are at about 1022.8 grams. So it's about around a 60 gram saving on the rotating assembly, which doesn't sound like much, and it probably isn't much in the grand scheme of things, but it is lighter and it is also stronger. So that's a welcome change for me. Now, what we are going to be choosing to run these with, I also have to get the bearing shelves and whatnot still in, and that may throw things off further. but from BMW, the variance that you are allowed to have between the pistons is 5 grams, and I will be well within that. All right, so hopefully by this point in the video, you guys have a pretty general understanding as far as the internals that I'm using. There are going to be videos coming out talking about exactly how I balance these pistons and the rods that are going to be a little bit more in depth, or at least show me doing it. I just haven't edited them yet, and I want this video to go up first because it'll give an introduction to the car and to the goal that I have in mind. There are some things that didn't get shown off in this video just because they haven't arrived yet, like the baffled oil pan. I'm waiting on the baffles themselves to come in. I do have the oil pan, as well as things like the head studs and main studs that I'm going to be putting in. And to do that, you do have to time cert the block for the head studs. The main studs are, you do have to modify as well, but you don't have to go through and re-tap or time cert holes for that. As far as for the reasoning for everything, I have very set goals for me and strength goals that I want to hit with the car because I don't want to end up in this situation again. So I'd rather spend the time building it now and build it once than have to do it multiple times over and over again. The one thing that I do think I would want to do if I could go back and I had the time for is to actually go ahead and do the closed deck conversion, even with the addition of the heat that it adds. It just gives me an even higher ceiling for power. Again, the way that I'm doing it right now is going to be completely fine for my power goals. I don't think it's going to be an issue, and only time will tell, but it's going to be stronger than it was regardless, so I should be able to hit those power goals reliably and safely. And talking with all the people that I have talked to, it's going to be fine. Any thoughts that I have are going to be alleviated the second I hear that motor turn on, but that's not going to happen until I get everything back. So I've been waiting for the block to come back from LA sleeve. The timeline for that hopefully is going to be within 6 weeks, and then the cylinder head should be coming back at some point this week or early next week. But anyway, if you guys have enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and drop them down below. And if you want to see more about this, go ahead and hit that subscribe and the bell notification, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.